All right, guys, look at this tweet from CryptoGodJohn. He wrote, in 2020, 2021, he called these returns on these cryptos. And you can see there's some pretty insane returns. You got a 10x, 60x, a 40x, 1, 2, 3, 4 that are over 100x returns, and one Chainlink that is over a 360x, or not over, it is exactly a 360x. And these are all verifiable on the blockchain, especially because we have CryptoGodJohn's wallets. And in our Hall of Fame calls, where we track the best traders in crypto who have the best calls, and we do this because inside our inner circle, we are doing a $50K to $5 million 100x challenge where we're on the lookout for that next 100x gem. And you can see Casper, which I'll talk to you about in just a second, is our closest one, currently sitting, I think, at a bit over 80x. But this is not what we're here for. We're here for this man, CryptoGodJohn, who is crushing the leaderboard. It looks like America in the Olympics, where basically the stat sheet is just entirely CryptoGodJohn. And even Alex Becker, who we talk about quite a bit on this channel, and a lot of people are way more familiar with Becker, they don't realize that he actually gets most of his calls through CryptoGodJohn, just a little bit later. So what I wanted to show you is exactly what a 360x token looks like, because at least when I got into crypto, I thought it was overnight. I thought you put it in and maybe you get 100x when you wake up in the morning, maybe you don't, but if you don't, you sell it and you move on to the next token. CryptoGodJohn taught me otherwise, and it's actually made me a lot of money, so I wanted to share this lesson with you. He wrote, quick story, in 2018, I began accumulating Link at 50 cents. Then it dropped all the way down to 20 cents. It later rallied 360x 2 years later. 2 years later. It's not overnight. It wasn't 1 week. It was 2 whole years. Zoom out to 2026. You had to hold that long in order to get a 360x. But he wrote, don't get shaken out just because prices are down. And although prices are starting to bounce back a little bit, I wanted to show you exactly what this journey looked like for CryptoGodJohn. So this is the Chainlink USD chart. You can see CryptoGodJohn said he bought in at about 50 cents. So that was back here. It was probably earlier because he's tweeted about this in 2018 saying how it will change his life. But here it is at 2019, still at about 50 cents. And the thing that I wanted to show you is just even these little dips way back here in 2019, in just a couple of days, it went from 53 cents down to 39 cents, which is a solid drawback. But if he held on, you could see it went from his 50 cents all the way up to $1.35, which if you're looking for a 360x, you can't sell there. Even though that's a nice 3x on the money, you would really regret that if you know what shape this graph takes, because a few days later, it pumps up, and sorry, I do say a few days, but let's just be clear here. That is a month and a half later. It popped up again to $3.80, which, okay, now you're saying, well, 50 cents. CryptoGodJohn is up an 8x. And look at this graph, guys. If you saw one of these graphs, if one of your tokens was like bouncing around in here, maybe it's pulled back 40%, and it went up and you got a 3x, and you're like, wow, that's cool. And then it went up again, and now you're up an 8x on your money. Most people are going to be taking it out here. Now, this is not a video to say, don't take it out at an 8x. At least the way I trade, I'd probably take out half, or at least my initial investment, depending on the conviction of the token over the long period of time. But this is what happens next. If we zoom out a little bit, get a little bit more context, you can see it pulls back from almost $4 up here at the peak down to $1.60. Now, this is what a lot of tokens have done recently. They've had a massive pullback here. And this is percentage-wise, let me just do some quick math with the help of a ruler. This has pulled back 60%. This might sound familiar, a little 60% pullback with a lot of the altcoins that you're holding at the moment, but you know, let's keep going and see what happens. Now, I've dragged it out here where you can see it's re-peaked at $4, but also take a look at the months below. You can see this was September 2019, and if we drag it out all the way to February, almost coming into March, I mean, guys, that's 7 months you had to wait as it bounced around up and down. And if you're holding for the long term, you can't sell, even though you're going back up again and going back down. You just have to ride out the volatility. Okay, cool. Let's speed up the time a little bit. Let's zoom all the way out. And actually, before I do that, I just wanted to show you this CryptoGodJohn tweet, which I thought was interesting. May 15th, 2019, he said, let's go. What a day for Chainlink. I was like, wow, that must have been a really massive price pump for Chainlink right here. You can see it's this little pump here. It's like the 62 cents up to maybe 80 cents over a couple of days, which is pretty funny when you look at it in context of where it was going to go. This is almost the most that he celebrated on the entire rise up. The early pumps were obviously the most impactful for him because he had the least amount of money. The more Chainlink goes up, the more his net worth improved. He actually took just a few $1,000s, I believe about $2,000 or $3,000, and turned it into multiple millions. Not just on Chainlink, but a couple of others of those tokens you saw in that original tweet. Now, we don't have to repeat ourselves 1,000 times, but look at this drop off from $4.71 after a nice big back run up, reclaiming the all-time high. Drops down back to $1.69. All the hard work erased. But no, wait a couple of months and boom, you're at a new all-time high of $19, which would make this a great day for John down here look absolutely tiny. Now, John was obviously absolutely chuffed with himself at a $19 price point. But what happens when it pulls back, guys? It pulled all the way back to $7.50, which is a loss retraced another 60%. It looks like that's a very common amount to actually be retracing. Now, what did CryptoGodJohn say when it retraced all the way down here? He says, the worst thing you can do is panic sell a spot long-term hold. They are long-term holds for a reason. All of my long-term holds I'm comfortable holding for a few years. This is basically the point of this video. Increase your time horizons if you're looking for those next 100x gems. John says, intraday price movements do not concern me. I simply just accumulate more. Awesome. So we accumulated more at $7. Let's give you guys some more context now. Zooming out. Wow, look at that candle. Rocketed up. And again, this took over 3 years in the making to $52. That was his 360x return. And he summarizes it with this tweet here. Some of my biggest wins is when I sat underwater for months, but conviction never folded. Before I hit a 300x on Link, I had to eat a negative 65% drawdown over and over again, as we just went and looked, and held for 2.5 years. Good things take time to grow. The moral of the story. I'm going to show you exactly what makes them finally grow in just a second. But please instill this into your trading strategy. Too many people want instant gratification and lack conviction. Now, what actually makes tokens grow? Because you can have tokens like Chainlink, which are hugely undervalued 3 years ago, and it takes 3 years to actually realize their true value, or maybe this is even an overinflated value. It actually did pull back down. Now we're back down at about $10, I believe, today. But if you sell anytime here, you're making way more than 100x return on your money. Take 10 grand, make $1 million. Do what CryptoGodJohn did, take a few grand, make a few $1 million. Impressive trading, but it takes patience. But what are we being patient for? Well, take a look at this graph here. This is Link versus Bitcoin, because as Becca says, Bitcoin is the music to all of our altcoins. We talk about the crypto whip here on the channel often. We won't go into it today, but basically Bitcoin moves first, and then the layer ones move second, and then the smaller and smaller market caps as you go down the tail of the whip, they're the last ones to move, and they move in the most volatile fashion. Link did not start moving until Bitcoin started moving as well. Now I apologize because it's a little bit hard to see because Link has a 25,000% return, where Bitcoin's maximum return here was only 1,000%. It's at a scale of 25 to 1 here, so it's going to be hard to see. But if you zoom in, or you want to pull this graph up yourself, you can see that Link needed the oxygen that Bitcoin was providing it. When Bitcoin hit all-time highs, that's when Link hit all-time highs. It wasn't moving independent of the market. Even recently, as it stagnated to the right for a couple of years. Again, this is a bigger time frame than you think. What did Bitcoin do? It stagnated to the right for a couple of years. Then you have a little bit of a resurgence. Link has another bit of a resurgence. So that's a nice 3x on Link based on the little bit of breathing room that Bitcoin is providing it. So if you are holding something that you think you have strong conviction could be your next 100x play. I mean, CryptoGodJohn, if you want the inside knowledge here, he thinks that OXO is going to be this season, this super cycle's Link, going to give us all the 300x return, which I really hope it does. If you want to have a look at that graph really quickly, it's not looking the best if you've been holding it. You can see it went all the way up to 50 cents and now pulled back to about 12 cents. Funny, it's very similar to Chainlink's actual prices, except it went up to $50, now pulled back to about $10. This one up to 50 cents, pulled back to 12 cents, but hopefully, when we zoom out on this one, this was also going to skyrocket. He keeps talking when it's at $2, when it's at $5, when it's at $10. I mean, just get back to 50 cents or $1, we'd be really happy. But we need to know the volatility is part of the reason we can make so much money in this market. And if you can hold through it, you're going to be doing extremely well. Casper, this is the final point I'll make on this. We found Casper inside the inner circle way back in 2022, I believe it was. And this is what the graph looked like. And we're like, oh, we've already missed the run up. And I believe it had about a $30 million market cap, $25 million market cap when we found it. We just weren't as educated as we are now, because I was like, it looks like it's already run. It was also been a bear market for almost a year at that point, and things weren't really popping. We did put a decent amount of money into it, which I am happy that we did that. But you can see that little peak that almost scared us away, for us thinking it was already up at an all-time high. Casper is now, you can see it's this little guy right here. So if you have high conviction in a token, Be patient and extend your timeline. Make money in other ways so that we can have this patient when it comes to investment. If you want to get the inside edge with us on the hunt for this next 100x gem token, join us inside the inner circle. We basically track everybody who's making these massive calls in the crypto market so that we can see exactly what they think the next 100x token is going to be and write it up there with them. The link to that is in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.